Welcome back, dear listeners, to Beautiful Chords podcast, the space where we meet heart first and dive into the melodies of purpose, love, and soulful growth. I'm your host, Himani, and today's conversation is pure heart fire. I'm joined by Tammy McCann, a radiant light, a soul awakener, and a global citizen on a mission to spread love, but starting with ourselves. Tammy has this rare gift of holding space for truth, clarity, and the courage to step into your most aligned life. Whether you're feeling stuck, inspired, or somewhere in between, this episode will move something inside you. So grab your journal, take a deep breath, and let's tune into the chords that connect us all. Hello, Tammy. Welcome on the show.
Hi, Himani. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. Now, let me tell my audience first that Tammy was nominated for the She Mentors Award 2 years in a row, and she's one of the most in-demand mentors on that platform. Honestly, lady, booking a mentor hour with you was not easy at all. I've been chasing you since December last year, which makes me even more grateful that you are here today sharing your energy, wisdom, and love with all of us. So, thank you for being on the show.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your precious time and for your listeners' time to spend this with me this afternoon.
We are incredibly fortunate to have you with us. So, Tammy, your energy is truly magnetic. Can you take us back to the moment you discovered your superpower, which is awakening love in others? And what did that really feel like for you?
I love that you're getting straight into the heart of things.
Absolutely. That's what I said. We deep dive into the heart first.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I think for me, just like any discovery, it's not about arriving at a point. I think there is a point where you can look back and realize that perhaps you had been doing this or had something traveling along on your journey with you. And I think that is very true for me in with this particular thing, in terms of the awakening love in others. It was something that I didn't realize for a very long time that it was a superpower. What I did know was, even as a young child, there was often, people would stop and chat with me, and as I sort of started to spend time with people, what I noticed was people would actually open up and tell me anything. I mean, they would kind of become this open book with me. And what I started to see was just how beautiful and human people were. Sometimes people would share their story of struggle or of celebration. And I remember thinking one time, wow, what an incredible human. They have actually been through so much, and yet, they have a great way of looking at life and speaking about their adventures and their life journey. And what I didn't realize was that the gift of holding this beautiful, judgment-free space, this lending an ear, just giving them a moment to be truly seen and heard, allowed them to tap into that part of themselves where love lives. And it is a co-creation, but it starts with one person pausing and giving them that ear, that love, that foundation of just being in order to recognize and feel that love emanate from within them.
This is not ordinary. Absolutely no. This is a true superpower that you hold. Hoo-hoo. This deserves a special attention.
Oh, thank you.
You describe yourself as a global citizen. How have your travels and cross-cultural experiences shaped your perspective on love and connection?
I'm loving these questions. These are
And they're coming
fantastic.
straight from the heart.
Deep dives. I love it. Whether I was a global citizen or not, I think we all go through a journey in our life. There's so much to experience out in the world, and we can have this sort of experience of, there's fear and there's love and excitement. And if you are someone who's very adventurous, you'd be very used to feeling both simultaneously. And so bravery and courage steps forth very often when you go and move to a new country. And I think, that bravery, that courage steps forth when you are meeting new people, you are learning about new cultures. And in each person that I met, I thought to myself, it would be great if I could make some friends, but at the very least, I want to understand the human in front of me. And so it gave me a whole different perspective on love and connection, in the sense of that I held no attachment to it. I wasn't hustling for my worth. I just went in with an open mind, an open heart, and thought to myself, it's okay if they don't walk away loving me, but I'm sure going to try loving them. I want to learn about them and know about them. And so I think, that's where sort of this global citizen sits within me, because I just have a thirst for knowing the humanity in each person I come across, knowing more about who they are, how they love, how they connect with people in their world, how they found their tribe. And I want to know about them culturally. Where did they live? How did they grow up? And through that, through knowing about them and their journey, you just love them more and more each time. Even if they mess up, you hear about these stories of how they then move forward from that mess up, from that, mistake. And I think that's how my perspective on love and connection has really shifted over the years of traveling to Hong Kong, living in Australia, traveling to New York, and now New Zealand. It's really quite phenomenal. Everyone's so different. It's beautiful.
This just feels like, Tammy, that moving countries doesn't look like a big deal for you. Your approach to something that makes you worthy of everything in life. Let's put it that way.
Oh my goodness, thank you. I've just got the most enormous goosebumps. Thank you.
Our conversation 2 weeks back at the coffee shop was just so amazing. It was so mesmerizing first, let's put it that way. You mentioned that the scariest place to be is the same place as last year if you're feeling stuck or unfulfilled. What are the first signs someone is living out of alignment? And how can they start to come back to themselves, like come back to home? Home, the inner one, not the physical.
So, some of the first signs that they are living outside of themselves and not at home within who they are. There's so many signs, but some of the top ones that I've noticed in people that I come across and work with, the first one is hustling for your worth. What you'll notice is as you spend time with people, it doesn't matter what your relationship with them is, you'll start to hustle for your worth with them. And especially if you have any kind of conflict with them. So, for example, it could be something as simple as, oh, I don't want to go and have Thai for dinner tonight. I'd like to go and have pizza. And within you, there is this space that says, I want to please them. So it's this people pleasing thing that starts to happen. And you're kind of hustling because you want so desperately for that person to like you, to accept you, to want to spend time with you, that you ignore that part within yourself that says, actually, I really want Thai. Perhaps it's that you love the culture. Perhaps it brings back a nostalgia for you. There's, because food can be such a visceral experience. And so what you're doing is you're denying yourself that speaking up and asking for what you need. And also you're denying yourself that experience that you were nudged to have. So that's one of the things. So you kind of hustle for your worth, you start to deny yourself. Another sign is that you start to feel stuck. That whole word of stuck, I feel like I'm stuck or I'm holding myself back, actually, to me, is a very big red flag in that you are not living in alignment with your inner self. You've not spent enough time in your inner sanctum with yourself, being who you truly are meant to be. And so, therefore, you have started to erode the self trust, the self love, and the self confidence in making any decisions moving forward. You also struggle with seeing things from a different perspective. There's always more choices than what you realize. And this stuck place that we get ourselves in sometimes makes us feel like there are no choices, there are no options. We feel like either people or things or companies, or we sort of start to even get into this space of like a victim mentality where it's like, the world is against me, or people, or the business, or my boss, or it's almost like an us versus them situation as well. And so we lose perspective and we lose sight of what is really calling for us. And that is actually just taking a moment to sit with ourselves, to close our eyes, to close off everything else in the world. Sometimes it's helpful to listen to some music or go out into nature, listen to the sound of waves, and just spend that time with ourself, just asking ourselves some questions. The first one could be, what would bring me joy right now?
Yes, that's very
Another one
valid.
could be,
Hmm.
right? Another one could be, what love am I asking for from the outside world that I can give to myself right now?
Wow. So basically, let's say looking for external validation instead of being with your own self. Or maybe let's say even to say no to somebody who have asked us for something, whether that aligns with us or not, but even to say no is something so hard. This is what personally I experienced in my life. It's not easy for me to say somebody, no, I can't do that. Now, whether I'm in a
Mm.
position to do it or not, I will find a way out to do that. Somewhere or the
So
other, I know I have to give up on something to come to that expectations of handling that no, but I know it's not easy for me.
can I ask you a question about that?
Hmm.
When someone asks you something and you are afraid of saying no, what's happening within you when that no is difficult to speak?
I think it's more or less like a fear, basically, if I say you that ways. Um, Not fear of being judged by somebody, but the fear of saying no. I don't know. I think I'm conditioned in a way where I cannot say no. I can go out of my way, but I cannot step back and handle something for somebody if they have asked me for it and I cannot deliver. Most of the time I'm there. 90% I'm there. In fact, 99%. But I
Yeah.
don't think I've ever said no. Worst case scenario, if it's a matter of life and death. That's it.
And you see, this is a perfect example, Himani, of where women would come to me because we are taught to love people in our lives. And we are taught love in a way that means that we put love for ourselves aside. We choose to say yes because no has been conditioned out of us, right?
Sure.
We are so taught that we should deal with the pain of saying yes, even then when our whole self wants so desperately to say no because we need a break, we need to take a rest, we need to perhaps we need to prep for something for work or for something else in our life that would make our lives easier, but we put ourself, our needs aside for those that we love in our life because we are so conditioned to say yes, because we are taught that we are not worthy enough as a woman if we say no. We are only worthy if we say yes, and that is supposedly love.
Exactly. And that's what you call it as a people pleaser.
Yes. And here's the beautiful thing about that is what if the best way to love people in our lives is to be exactly who you were always meant to be? And what if that no actually led them down a path that gave them so many more yeses,
Possibly.
right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, again, like it's just a really hard thing. We don't ever know, but I think, as mums, I can totally relate to that. Many times with my kids, I don't want
Mhm.
to say no to them.
Yeah.
I want to give them
Oh,
everything, right? But I've learned that, especially as you know, last year my health had to come first, and
yes.
so that was a really tough
I
space.
know that. And you
I had
dealt
to
with
learn,
such chronic
right?
illness and can't imagine that as well.
Well, I had to learn to say no,
Yeah.
fortunately, and I learned so much in the process, actually.
I remember you held one webinar with the She Mentors group. I think it was somewhere in early 2024 something. Unfortunately, those webinars that whosoever conducts that in that month is always it's always conflicting with my driving when I'm going back home from the work to pick up kids. And it was done by you once. It was in early 2024. I clearly remember. I could not enjoy the full replay of it because after a while I had to quit that group because I was no longer contributing to it. And I felt it's a sheer wastage of my time and also for them if I'm not doing enough justice to that platform. However, during driving, I kept that recording on when you were performing that, and you were actually asking questions with your eyes closed, with your hand on your heart. It just felt like as if you are being close to me. I felt like as if I'm sitting right next to you. We're not there via video calling or whatsoever. I felt that you were right there with me. That was the power of words
Mm.
and the power of your aura that you were there already with all of us. So truly,
Mm.
Tammy, when you say superpower, it is a superpower. Undeniable.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you so much for seeing me.
For seeing you and also for remembering you because that particular thing is like etched in my heart forever. It cannot go away. Moving on, in one of your introductions where I've read on the platform, you say that fear and dreams often live side by side. How do you help clients navigate those two voices in their head?
Um, First by is recognizing what their dreams truly are. I think, one of the gifts of coaching is we get to ask a lot of questions that don't feel like interrogation. Each question is a step inward into that space within each one of us that holds all of the knowledge, all of the answers, and perhaps the keys to unlock greater truth. And so, with that, as we ask questions, when people talk about, their dreams and the fears, we first of all recognize, okay, if this is truly a dream, or perhaps the fears are showing up to let you know that this isn't actually a dream, that this is not the right path. This is simply someone else's dream that you thought you dreamed, but actually it was based on somebody else's beliefs, somebody else's conditioning within you, somebody else's commentary or self talk that you've taken on, subconsciously agreed to take on. And so we get to that point of, okay, if this truly is a dream, what shows up simultaneously with, this excitement and this, I mean, it's a sheer awe and pride and confidence and so much more that, again, it's about this enormous amount of emotion that is moving through our body and our soul and our spirit. And the fear steps in because you generally are so close to that precipice of your achievement, of your dream, of your goal, that it's there to remind you that this is really important. It is so important. And there is a word that I learned when I lived in New York called yira. And it is exactly this. It is this beautiful combination of both excitement, knowing, confidence, and fear at the same time. You are so excited. All of these emotions want to be part of this momentous moment that it becomes Yira. It is like, Yira! Like
You
literally is
feel that
cheering for
energy,
you.
truly. So
Um,
basically, it is all a game of emotions and feelings. It's all coming from within.
Yeah. And the thing is, the duality needs to exist because they're all there to give you information. It's all there and all of these emotions journey with you. It's just some step forth when they're needed, or when they think they're needed, right? And so it's really about how do we balance out, how do we recognize what's truly going on, and how do we sort of then say, okay, fear, what are you really here to tell me? And perhaps fear is just very afraid that you will get all of the things that you have always wanted, and it may not have a place anymore. And so sometimes just by sort of, again, going within ourselves and saying, hi, Fia. Thank you so much for traveling this road with me. You have helped me. I love you, and there'll always be a purpose for you.
Oh my goodness. Showing gratitude to fear as well.
Yes.
One of the podcasts I recorded with an Ayurvedic enthusiast, she emphasized on the power of affirmations with me, which I
Mhm.
loved. And today, I think it's all about facing your fears gracefully and working on it, that you know that you have to win on them. And we are winning
Yes.
it, that's for sure. You have a beautiful toolkit from experiential learning to Akashic records and emotion code. How do you blend the spiritual with the practical in your coaching?
I think this is also the great question of life. How do we be all of who we are, right? I think it comes back to what you choose to believe. And by specifying what we choose to believe, it's really about, some of us may have been raised in a house with religion or without religion, with certain spiritual beliefs or not. And I think, the older we get, as we travel along on our journey of life, we realize that each one of us has a very different perspective of what spiritual is and what it isn't. And whether you do or don't believe, there is often this like intuition, this space within us that gives us information without fully knowing how or where it came from. And, people talk about it as a gut feeling, people talk about it as having heart or intuition or clairvoyance. It just really depends on, who you are or where you come from. But how I combine that with my work is I am my work. I am the holder of the tools. I am the vessel who chooses which part of myself to bring forth in each coaching session. And I tend to try as much as I can to bring forth whatever the moment calls for. It's like a dance. Sometimes the dance requires you to stand up close and straight and structured. And sometimes it's a free flowing kind of movement. And it's the same with coaching and bringing forth that whole part of myself. It exists, and by allowing myself to be whole in each moment and dancing with the client, it also allows me to be at my full potential as well, and not holding any attachment to the outcome, because, love sits there, right? Love resides, and love always leads the way.
You know what, Tammy? So far, the interviews that I've recorded, so far, the guests who have met on this platform, I have ensured that I've researched enough about their subjects, their knowledge, and what we need to talk about on this platform, on this podcast. I do enough of research on the content, on their journey, and what questions or what kind of a knowledge do we need to bring through this podcast. With this, I feel that everything resonates so beautifully with me. I didn't have to really come up with questions or to come up with so much of research for you. It's more like it's flowing from my heart directly. I don't think I have any better way to even explain this to you.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
In terms of the Akashic records, I've heard a few Hindi podcasts that talks about Akashic records. Now, I've done it and I've listened to it in Hindi because that's my mother tongue and I'm fluent in it. Can you explain about a few Akashic records in your own language and how do you conduct it and what is the spiritual aspects of going through an Akashic records? If you can talk about it on this platform, that would be great.
Of course, of course. With absolute pleasure. It's one of my favorite spaces to be in. So, the Akashic Records are essentially the book of your life. And some of these books have whole volumes that aren't written yet. So, it can be what is possible in the future and what has happened in the past. And it is a record of all of the information that is pertinent for you to know in each lifetime or from each lifetime for your greatest good. And it is the visiting the Akashic records is like this spiritual library. And sometimes it doesn't actually look like a library. Sometimes it can look like you're stepping into a cloud and there's bubbles all around you, and each bubble holds information about a particular life or about a particular phase in this life. Or sometimes it could literally be a library that you step into. Sometimes it looks like a very old and ancient library, sometimes a futuristic library. It is, for other people, it's even looked like flowers. Each flower, each petal is a chapter of a book. It's quite wild. And each person's view of the records is very, very different. I've never come across two that are identical. There is always vast differences in my experience. So that's kind of what it is and sort of what it looks like a little. How we access it is through, there are many different styles that people use to access. How I access it is through a prayer that shows gratitude, acknowledgement to the beings of the records, because like in any great library, there are people who take care of your library for you. And again, these beings that reside and take care of your records are very different for every single person. I actually have a fairy that visits my records very frequently, and she is quite incredible. Yeah. Well, although for some people that's probably not a surprise.
This is such a dreamy, surreal, and imaginative conversation, man. How
Yeah.
do you decode these symbols for somebody else?
That's a great question. So, when I'm in the records, what I truly believe is it's important to pass on the information that I see and the symbols that I see. So sometimes a symbol that means, so say, for example, let's take something that everybody would identify. Like, let's say I see a heart. And perhaps that heart is red. And for a lot of people, that may signify love. I would tell the client, I'm seeing a red heart, and for me, that means love, for example. But the client might say, oh my goodness, you seeing that red heart shows me a moment that I experienced with my father. He actually went away on a trip and he gave me a red heart, and it was the last gift he ever gave me. And so it would have an enormously different experience for the client. And here's what's really quite phenomenal about the records is they know whose records we're reading, how they will interpret the symbols. And that's why it's so important that I pass on the symbol that I see. And if neither of us knows what that symbol means, I go back to the beings of the records and I say, give me more information. Tell me more that this client will understand. What else do we need to know about that symbol? I'll just ask some more questions so that we can get really clear on what it actually is and how that relates to why we've come into the records in the first place.
Do you think to read somebody's Akashic records, you and your potential clients needs to have some same wavelengths of minds to match or some same frequency where you both can sit and figure it out? Basically, for somebody who's not that deep dive into spirituality, how would you navigate the process for them?
That's actually really important that you ask that question. In coaching, but also in Akashic records, or actually anytime you are in partnership with somebody, it's so important that the chemistry works. So I will always have a chemistry call with any potential clients to make sure that there is this sort of flow of energy, flow of connection. And it's the same in the Akashic records. If somebody is closed off to sometimes the potentially what seem crazy things, right? That we see, feel, sense. Sometimes it can be a very visceral thing. It's not just an actual symbol. Sometimes it could be like, oh my goodness, I'm getting a pain in my head here. It could be like a very physical thing. And if people aren't open to that, then generally speaking, you will sense that in the initial conversation and in the initial sort of chemistry call. And and it's only ever happened twice, and if I've missed it in that initial call throughout the session in the records, I will ask, are you okay to continue? Does this make sense for you? I will sense that they're starting to disconnect.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Superpower is the term given to you only. So, what are some daily or weekly practices that help keep your energy in a high centered vibration mode?
Oh, this is my favorite part. So, first thing in the morning is I will wake up and I will set an intention. And in that intention is, who do I need to be today? Do I need to be mum all day? Am I being a loving human to others or to myself? What is my intention for the day? And perhaps the intention is to rest. Perhaps my intention is to laugh as much as I can. Perhaps it's to take care of my health. Whatever that intention is, I'll set it. And then from there, I will then call in any archetypes that I'm needing for that particular day. So, for example, if I need to have a really tough conversation with somebody, I might call in, I've got an archetype that's a skydiving chipmunk. So I might call in this skydiving chipmunk to give me courage and bravery and a little bit of cheeky spirit,
Hmm.
because that's also important. I love to laugh, as you know. And and so I will do that. I will then speak to my guides. I will speak to my spirit team. I will get them ready for the day, ask them for what I need. I will show gratitude, thank them for their their journey with me, thank them for being with me and loving me and showing me the way. And then I will do a small meditation, which includes filling my whole self with this beautiful, luminous white light emanating out from within.
So
And
beautiful.
so that's how I start the day. And then sometimes I'll just top it up throughout the day if I feel like I need it by doing things like popping out into the garden. And Mother Nature is so clever.
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
sure she's put weeds in our garden so that we can
Yes.
spend the time out there tending
Yes.
to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You call them weeds, you call them thorns, but for us, in basic, they're all the challenges of life that we come across in every day. Honestly, what I do, Tammy, is when I wake up, the first thing I do is just go and open the doors of the temple. I've got a small temple in my home office area. I go and open those doors and I just say to the Almighty that thank you for giving me the new day. I'm sure
Mm,
not many are blessed to wake up in the morning. No matter whatever we think of 6 months down the line, a year down the line, we don't even know what is holding the next day for us. So my only thing is that I wake up in the mornings, I thank God for giving me this one another day. And I say them this prayer of gratitude and always say them that thank you for making this day the best day of my life. Come what may, no matter whatever challenges I have to come across, no matter whatever turns I have to take, or whatsoever they feel like they plan to give me. It is all coming from their side, and they want to see the best version of myself. And that's how I say it to them. And I thank them
mm.
and leave for my work. Simple.
That's beautiful. I mean, so much gratitude actually just changes so much.
Yes,
Even when or rather, especially when we have a bump in the road, which we were just talking about a moment ago, when a bump in the road pops up, or, and that bump could be a challenge. Perhaps you have to say no to somebody. Perhaps you have to change or readjust your day, or perhaps or perhaps you've lost your job, whatever it is. Showing gratitude for that redirection, showing gratitude for that learning experience. And it is a gift, right? A gift given to us so that we can learn to build that confidence within ourselves, that self-trust. Like, we can rely on ourselves. We can do anything. We can overcome these things. And it really starts to build such a confidence and a bravery within ourselves. If we didn't have these bumps in the road, we wouldn't be able to see just how resilient and incredible we are as humans.
for sure. And everything begins from our own self, not from anybody external. So if someone's listening right now feeling disconnected from the inner power, what would you say to spark that first flicker of light in them?
First of all, the light is always in there. It's perhaps hidden.
And you only have to see it with your
Oh,
eyes
yeah.
closed.
I think, it's really important to take a moment to look inside. And if you aren't someone who is very comfortable with closing your eyes and sitting in silence, that's okay. One of the other ways that you can actually start to expand that light, that spark that is within you, or to find that spark, is by starting to build trust in yourself. So it can start by very, very simple things, like, for example, you can write yourself a note, a permission slip, or a note or a request saying something like, I will drink 2 glasses of water today. Very simple, very small. It's not a big request of yourself. So write yourself, I, Tammy, am going to drink 2 glasses of water today. Now, once you've drunk those 2 glasses of water, you then write yourself a note, another note, saying, I am so proud of you for drinking 2 glasses of water today. It is so profound that building trust within yourself by doing small things, right? Every great thing starts with small
Oh,
steps.
for sure.
And these small steps of building trust within ourselves, telling ourselves we're going to do something and then following through and doing it and then showing ourselves gratitude, but writing it down is so important. It's that visceral and that sort of also, a keepsake as well. And so, what I have my clients do is put each of these notes into a jar, and by the end of a week, they'll see how many notes are in that jar, and they just keep going. They keep going for as long as they can. And what you'll find is that light starts getting bigger and bigger. That self trust gets more and more. It steps forth front and center more frequently throughout your day until you start to recognize that love and that belief and that confidence within you was always there, right? And you have the power to change that.
You know what? This conversation now truly resonates with what I've been doing for a very long time. For example, if I want to say something really nice to somebody, but I do not have the courage to do so, just hypothetically saying, I'll write it on a piece of paper and put that piece of paper in the temple underneath that divinity. So I already feel that I've said it to the person. I cannot say it directly. I cannot have an eye to eye contact, but I've said it. And somewhere I feel just because of writing only, I have expressed my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
First, it has made me a lot more lighter. Secondly, I feel by writing those emotions and putting them on that piece of paper has already reached out to that particular person who I intended to write it for, but I haven't said it any time.
I love that. I love that because the other thing too is it carries energy. Each
Yes.
word, each writing, each paper, it carries energy. And what's also beautiful is it's almost like you've written that into your energy. And yes, you've put it under divinity and you've let the world know, the universe know, the oneness know that you really care about this person and you're telling them such wonderfully beautiful things. But it also stays within your energy until you are next with that person and it's passed on through your energy meeting with that person's energy and they can feel it. They can feel the pride or the confidence or the love or the sentiment that you have expressed for them.
Tammy, I'm just loving this conversation and I just feel like it can go on and on and on. But I'm also worried for the time that we have to spend. So, before we let you go, we have a tradition on beautiful chords. We call it the final chord, a space to pause, reflect, and offer a piece of your heart to the listeners. What would that be?
There are so many pieces of wisdom, but I think Dolly Parton said it best when she wrote a song about the greatest love of all being inside of you. And I think for those of us who've ever hustled for our worth or have ever felt like they're unworthy of anything that their heart brings forth for them, I just want to remind you that the greatest love of all truly is inside of you, and you are absolutely worthy of everything that your heart dreams. You wouldn't dream it if you weren't worthy of it.
Tammy, thank you for being the loving mirror we all needed today. Your words were more than wisdom, they were medicine. And to everyone listening, if you felt something stir in you, even just a whisper, follow it. That's your heart calling you back home. And remember, you're never too far from love, from purpose, from the life your soul came here to live. Until next time, keep listening inward, keep choosing love, and may your days be guided by the most beautiful chords.